Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington's out on assignment. I think he done snuck away to Las Vegas. A lot of folks are on the road and on the move, but we're gonna make sure you get your streaming show and information on HBCU Sports. We're gonna make sure you get it this morning, as we had some big games this past weekend that started on Thursday. We did our last show and really broke that down. I enjoyed that a lot. Great job by the team there, Charles Bishop and A.D. Drew, giving us all the information we need, as well as Wilton Jackson II. Guess what? We have him back in the mix. With that being said, welcome to episode 576 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. From institutions large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights on information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics. Simply put, we just call it the HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and giving you an update on the show today, representing Texas Southern University. Shout out to Texas Southern University. I got to come from Chicago back to Houston and fly out on a charter plane to Tallahassee. Got back last night, boy. It's something nice when you get to fly charter and just get on the road. Shout out to Florida Agricultural Mechanical University as they set that homecoming out and they made sure they took care of your boy. So I'm always excited when I get on the road and get the love from HBCU folks. Much love. Shout out to everybody that has already voted in terms of early voting, and shout out to those that plan to vote on Tuesday. It's important. Make sure you get your vote out there. Before I bring the rest of the team on, I'm gonna tease out a little bit. Shout out to One Chapter, One Shield brother Deshaun Baker. He was gifted this. I had one for the team. This is our new framework where we're bringing alphas together that are associated with Prairie View. Not only the chapter Eta Gamma, a legendary chapter there with all four, as you said, national champions. Can't count the districts that we've had. But we also welcome in all those Prairie View folks associated with Alpha that went to Prairie View. May not been able to have the opportunity to play at Eta Gamma, but played later or join the fraternity. I want to be careful with my words. This is a non-hazing organization. We got some Sigmas on the show, or at least one usually had a production. I don't want him to go turn us in. So with that being said, without further ado, let's bring on the rest of the team as it's time to get to work. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency. THG Agency is the company that provides educational consulting and data analytics. Let me give a shout out also to Jackson State University. My big bro, Charles Bishop, he turned it up in terms of his homecoming started early with the Styrofoam cup. I'll leave it just like that. It's like he found another one. I think this was a little ease on the throat, though, versus what I saw him starting out. I think that was early as Thursday when the Friday pictures floating around. And then I seen the guest of my show, just to let you know how small this thing is connected. I'm floating around there, and we got this text with the brother that went to Alabama A&M that I had the opportunity to bring in to the fraternity from Alabama A&M, Delta Gamma up there in that area. He's down there doing business, having fun, whatever you want to call it. And then we in the hotel, and Charles, line brother, who steps in as he's there checking out his son at Florida A&M, and I give a shout out to him. So yeah, man, it's this thing that we call the HBCU sports culture. Certainly, when we get into the sporting diaspora, as I like to talk about it. It is significant and huge, but it is connected. And I'm sure all of you all in some way could tell your story. But before we do that, let's get a little bit into it. Let me ask you all at least how you doing before I give you updates to move to this first segment. Charles, since I shouted you out there a little bit, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, Doc. Post recovery homecoming, I want to send shout outs to my guys, 13 Defiant Souls of Eternal Black and Old Gold. We got some teas as well, but definitely want to put that.
Yeah, I saw that shirt. I took a picture of the shirt. I want the shirt, man.
Yeah. I got you, Doc.
You better make sure I get a double X shirt, man.
I got you, Doc. I got you.
Everybody chapter shirt, man. I just got it like that.
I will say this, Dr. Cavil, no pressure today, but you have the I Love Nation kind of waiting on your polls today. I'm going to just leave it right there.
I know, that's why I'm teasing it out. They're going to have to wait a little bit. I'm teasing it out.
That is a fact.
I'm ecstatic with the 3, with the I Love. Because they have intrigue. They sat out there and started on social media asking the question. The question. We're going to get it to them. We're going to make sure we can see what it's like. Hell, North Carolina Central made. That game was so close going back for. They made state number 1. Yeah. Then we got the voters. 2 of the voters are right here. Shout out to Brian for driving the ship. Appreciate you. And again, let me shout out you all for your homecoming. Your people, they're nice, man. People say what they want. Hospitality. Man, they kept shoving cups in my face, but I ain't gonna tell you what it was.
Oh Lord,
it was nice.
Good morning, Tallahassee. It's good to see you guys.
Greatest homecoming in the universe, right, Doc? Greatest homecoming in the universe.
I'm just long
Brian. I was about to say he don't have something to say about that.
Brian. Brian.
Hey.
Come up with another slogan, man. All you guys out here with these new acronyms, come up with a new one. Just go.
Y'all stole that from us. That greatest thing on the earth.
No, we're not doing that today.
I never had the greatest.
Brian.
Let me stop.
Brian.
I'm gonna have one of these shows today. Go ahead, AD.
I was gonna say, how long did you spend on Perry Street? That's the question, Dr. Cavil, because you know.
Oh man, I walked around.
You can spend your whole paycheck all day on Perry Street.
Charles can relate to this. I got all my steps in yesterday. I saw every bit of that campus from the morning to the afternoon. Oh man, I was on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I stayed a minute on Perry Street.
Yeah. And
ran out of money.
Yeah. Dr. Cavil, you talked about the I Love waiting on the polls. I guarantee you there are plenty of people from Bulldog Nation that are going to be waiting to see if they were able to make the big jump to the top of the poll and overtake the I Love.
Yeah,
their victory over the number 1 team.
Yeah, you're right. And they asked about it on Thursday. Y'all talked about
that. Was a top 5. That was a top 5 matchup.
Big game. Big
I
game.
Love. Yeah. You know, you played a non-ranked team, so let's see how everybody weighed those 2 games.
I'm just saying, my ear got bended yesterday. Like, hey, y'all need to do the right thing. I'm like, hey, chill.
Like, man, I just got 1 vote.
You got to remind them that you only 1 vote. You only 1 vote.
It got a little gangsta on me yesterday. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know, it's like the nation, at least what we think it is. We try to be democratic about it, but you know, people have other inclinations on their mind. But that's another show. David, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. I'm over here getting ready to watch my son play in this Super Bowl. Team went winless and decided to play out of their minds last week in the playoffs. So now we here. We here this week.
Congratulations. Let's get that Super Bowl. Let's get that Super Bowl.
We're gonna get that. We're gonna get it.
AT gets this year.
Well, we ain't gonna get much of that. We ain't gonna have much of a Super Bowl this year. At least not in football. I mean, other sports we got other opportunities
in there. But seriously, what's the weather you were talking about? What's the weather over there?
Right now, we're sitting around 43 degrees. It went up 3 temperatures since I joined there. 43.
Wow.
I would
the low is.
It's warm.
The low is 32. The high is 53. And I'm going to Germany later this week, so you can imagine and it's the same temps there too.
Too much.
What part of the South you in?
I'm not in the South. That's the problem. I'm in the North. I'm in the North. I'm in Rhode Island.
Yeah. I went to Chicago. It was abnormally warm, 80, but it quickly turned. And by the time I was leaving, I got what it meant to be a little bit of that Chicago wind. I was like, "Woo! All right, time to leave." Wilton,
the win is
how
not a
you
game
doing today, man?
I'm good. I was right next to Charles in that press conference yesterday. I mean, TC was smiling from ear to ear, and everybody
He's like a Chester cheese cat.
Oh yeah, he was extra happy yesterday. If Jack State fans, period.
They put a beat down on somebody. With that being said, let's just talk about what happened, because we had actually 2 number ones go down, not just the major division, which we saw on Thursday with North Carolina Central being defeated by South Carolina State Bulldogs, but one that probably surprised most people was Johnson C. Smith. Golden Bulls actually went down as well, and they were shut out by Fayetteville State Broncos in that matchup. But let's start at those that dropped out. West Virginia State Yellow Jackets, after losing 2 straight, they bounced back, defeated Frostburg 38-24. So they improved to 6-3, 5-2 on the season. Also receiving votes, setting up what will be a big match up this coming Saturday. Virginia State Trojans did what they needed to do as they won. They're 5-3. More importantly, 5-1 in conference play as they defeat Lincoln, Pennsylvania Lions 55-0. Florida Memorial Lions, they continue to find a way to win, and they had a big victory, 5-2-1 on the season, 4-1 in conference play as they sneaking right around the chicken coop trying to find a way to get a conference championship. They defeat St. Thomas Knight Hawks 75-21. AD Drew's a little familiar with St. Thomas. That's a whole nother story. We won't get there, though. Fort Valley State Wildcats, they also won, setting up a big-time matchup themselves. They're 6-3, 6-1. Defeated Benedict Tigers 44-20. Those are your teams that would have been in the top 10 if you look at it that way. But also just outside of that, and I'll mention their names because they create a big matchup this weekend. We'll talk a little bit more about in the second half of the show. Albany State Golden Rams also won and improved to 6-3, 6-1 as they defeated their rival over there, one of their rivals in state, the Savannah State Tigers, 28-26. Close matchup there. But let's get into the top 7. With the top 7, we have Tuskegee Golden Tigers that were looking at a chance to set up a really intriguing matchup with their rival. That still will be the case. But they had a tough road loss in Atlanta to number 6 Clark Atlanta Panthers 36-28. Great game. But Tigers fall to 5-4, 5-2. Huge matchup as we talked about on Tuesday last week. As number 6 Clark Atlanta Panthers get it done and at least find a way to stay near in the race, if you would, I guess. But more importantly, they finish out a season that nobody would have thought of. They defeat number 7 Tuskegee Golden Tigers 36-28. They improved to 6-2-1, 5-2 on the season as they continue to march. Langston Lions lost to Ottawa Arizona Spirits 42-32. AD Drew talked a little bit about this as well, saying, hey, Langston were going to get in a little tougher part of their schedule. They failed to 5-3, 4-2. And they had just won 5 straight games. Credit to them on a 5-game win streak, but it comes to an end. Bringing us to number 4, Winston-Salem State Rams. Late in the season, they did not play, but that's part of we discussed before, a scheduling thing. So they're still at 6-3, 4-2. Bringing us to number 3, Miles Golden Bears keep rolling. Defeated Morehouse Maroon Tigers 37-3. Final 7-2, 7-0. So they set up a matchup against Tuskegee. They win it. They're in the SIC championship for 4. They lose it. We get AD's version of chaos, maybe. Number 2, Virginia Union Panthers defeated Bluefield State. Big Blue, check out this score, 91-0. They went for 2-point conversion at the end of the game. People are still shaking their head like Wilton over
diabolical. There. It's diabolical, Dr. Cavil. Diabolical. When you up 89-0 and you say, oh, we still gonna go for 2?
That was perfect.
That's crazy.
I mean,
diabolical.
Especially if you're talking about getting to the 90 threshold, you kick that extra point, you're still at 90.
90 obviously wasn't enough for them. 91 will do.
That's a Dusty Rose elbow.
Oh my God!
Union proves to 7-2 and 6-0. Yes, a lot of elbows was thrown in that matchup, and it was only one way. Johnson C. Smith, the surprise of the weekend, lost to Fayetteville State. Not just they lost, but they lost 27-0. They get shut out, but they're still in the mix. They're at 8-1, 5-1. Shout out to ESPN Crew. They actually highlighted this matchup with Johnson C. Smith and Fayetteville State and talked about it, that Johnson C. Smith was the only undefeated HBCU program in the country. They also highlighted Texas Southern at FAMU in terms of the homecoming mix-up. So good to see that they're getting the mix in between the HBCUs there in terms of what that looks like. With that being said, any quick thoughts, starting with you, Charles, on the mid-major scores after Saturday?
Yeah, obviously the big one, Johnson C. Smith, and I'll tell you, Wilton sent me the text. I mean, it's funny here at the vet. You sort of get one-way text because the Wi-Fi is such you can't send something back. But I saw it and I just assumed he made a mistake. You know, that was my initial something. And I was like, wait a second, Wilton wouldn't just send that to me.
No.
So it blew me away, especially when you talk about Johnson C. Smith and their defense this past season, the way they've been lights out pretty much all season. To see them give up 27, but to get shut out in the process, that's a potent team either way. But it's sort of a reminder week to week, anything can happen.
Good points. Good points. Brian, you want to jump in there and give your thoughts in terms of what took place there?
I'm curious to see what's going to happen in the CIAA now. You know, I think you know, I love the fact that WSSU Ram Nation is now trolling Johnson C. Smith. You know, I mean, two programs that were horrible for the last 5 years, and now you got Ram Nation, Bull Nation. They're trolling each other.
I
don't think we got anybody from JCSU right now, but I mean, just the fact that the South, and hey, love the fact that Fayetteville State says, not so fast, Johnson C. We ran this South, and yes, we may not be going to the championship for the first time in 6 seasons, something like that. But we still have a say in who might go. That was outstanding work by Fayetteville State after the disappointing loss a week ago against Shaw. So fascinating.
Let me go to AD Drew, get his thoughts as he's moving around, see if we can get him in there. Maybe he's frozen. We'll take him off. Can you talk, AD?
I think, yeah, there you go.
Am I back?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. One correction, Dr. Cavil. Savannah State defeated Albany State.
Oh, they got the score wrong?
The score. You had the score backwards. You had the right score, wrong team.
So that changes things up.
That not only does that change things up, that brings in a different level of chaos that I was not even talking about.
You know, he gonna point that out, Charles.
And we gonna, we'll break that down a little bit later. But right now, there's a scenario still that obviously Fort Valley wins, they're in. But there's a scenario where Albany State can still get in, Tuskegee can still get in. I mean, it is crazy depending on what happens next week. And CIAA, hey, y'all brought it on yourself, Johnson C. Smith. Now we supposed to have some. We may have to pull out the nerds and the
calculators,
and the
algorithms, all
that stuff to figure out what's going
slide
on
rule.
with the CIAA. I know we're not talking about the majors yet, but SWAC. You see what happens when you get away from division football. You see how much fun that we can have with division football and how many teams are still in the race come the last week. We love the fact that teams win the East or win the West, so they win by so many games and everything. But the fact that you got 4 teams still in the race for that number 2 in the SIAC,
it's all about chaos, man.
You got 3-4 teams that depending on how things can go in the CIAA, and I know the SWAC leads every conference in attendance. Just think how much the attendance will go up on those last 2 weeks if we get away from these divisions.
When every game matters. When every game matters, man.
AD trying to negotiate a way to get FAMU back in the mix. Hey, man, just wait on the 3-way.
Way to go, Drew. Way to go, Drew. Way to go, Drew.
AD ain't look, he ain't gonna let it go, but it's not even. It shouldn't be about FAMU though. Like I just think you want more teams involved.
I know you're serious. You're serious. Charles and I just.
It ain't enough to just enjoy homecoming, huh, AD? You got to make a point. Now.
Hey, you do go to Texas Southern, so you got to wear some of that butt whooping yesterday also. Now, don't forget that.
I own that. I own that. The check comes from Texas.
That was a good one. Now that was a good one. Wow, Wilton, where you at on this? What do you think?
When I look at that, I look at Johnson C. Smith. One thing that comes to mind: Darius Ocean had not thrown 2 interceptions. Well, he had only thrown 2 interceptions for the season coming into that game. He finished with 2 yesterday. So, I mean, obviously credit to Fayetteville State's defense. I mean, obviously familiar with Fayetteville State, obviously, you know, played the championship last year. But when I sent Charles that text, I was like, a shutout? I could see maybe a win, but a shutout? They were like John C. Smith was giving up, what, 15, 16 points a game?
Right.
Coming into this. And, I mean, they looked like unstoppable on defense. Yesterday, not so much.
Right.
So it open, like, I mean, it just really keeps the door open for in the CIAA right now.
You're correct. Good, great analysis. Dave?
I'll be quick. It's about the art of the hangover, right? And I know a lot of folks had homecomings this week, but it's about the art of the hangover and whether or not Johnson C. Smith is going to let this loss hang over to the next couple games. That's going to be important because it won't take much for those guys to be out since they're no longer in the divisions.
Ooh, great point. Great. Well, let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side and we'll talk about the major division and then we'll slide the poll rankings just a little bit. Stick with us. We'll give you the poll rankings. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this first break.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with the crew. We got all the professors in the building, putting a little overtime, grading some papers after those tests. We're taking on Saturday here on Sunday morning, giving you your updated grades in terms of what took place. Talking about updated grades, well, let's look at what happened in the top 7, really the top 10, if you would, in terms of the teams that were in the mix from last weekend. Well, starting with the team that dropped out, Southern Jaguars, they defeated in a game against Alabama A&M. They were on the road. They scored a touchdown with 1:12 left to seal the deal, essentially winning 25-20. And you'll get that in a lot of these matchups, very close competitive games throughout the weekend in the mix when you talk about what took place this weekend. So Southern was top receiving votes. We just told you what they did against Alabama A&M. Alcorn State Braves lost a tough one as they fall to 4-4-3 and 4-5, 3-2, I should say. They lost to Alabama State Hornets 21-17. The Hornets came from behind to score a touchdown in the fourth quarter and held on to win that game. Grambling State Tigers, they have fallen on hard times. 4-5. They're now 1-4 in conference play, losing to Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. Big win by Bethune-Cookman. Close one there. They win 24-21 as they hold on to get a victory over the Tigers. Let's get into the top 7 now. Top 7, we just told you about Alabama State defeating the Alcorn State Braves 21-17. So Hornets improved to 5-3, 4-1. Everybody keeps wanting to talk about their quarterback, but that defense finds a way to hold them in the game, and now they're getting a little momentum. Should be interesting to see, can they push it just a little forward? Well, Florida A&M took out all their frustrations of the season on Texas Southern Tigers, 52-28. It got close for a minute, 2 touchdowns where the Tigers pushed back for about 5-minute stretch, and then the Rattlers said, no, that's enough. We're finished with you all. 5-3, 3-1 as they improve on the season, getting things done. At number 5, Hampton Pirates lost to Villanova Wildcats. This is part of their season as well, particularly in conference play. Played a lot of close games, but just cannot hold on to leads. Villanova scores in the third quarter, and it's just enough to hold on and win 20-14 as the Hampton Pirates fall to 5-4 and 2-3 in their conference race. Bring us to number 4. First upset of the week, Thursday night. Everybody's eyes was on ESPN2. We did the whole second half of the show giving highlights. I thoroughly enjoyed it. What a classic matchup. It looked like South Carolina State was going to pull away. Should have known. Number 1 North Carolina Central show why they are at least number 1 at that time. As they come back, and then it goes back and forth. But South Carolina State Bulldogs hold on at home 24-21, and it continues to be the house of horrors for the Eagles. The Bulldogs improved to 6-2, 2-0 in conference play. Many people thought that was conference championship, but there are 3 more games left. We'll get to see what takes place. Number 3, who was also number 25 in the NCAA poll rankings, Tennessee State Tigers, lost to UT Martin Skyhawks 28-21 and had a chance to score a touchdown that would have given them in range of an extra point or go for 2 to win the game on 4th down. Quarterback rolls to the left, escaping, makes a throw to the end zone. He gets tipped, goes out of bounds, and the Tigers fall this past weekend. Their record falls to 6-3, 3-2 in conference play. They had that one first place vote. Interesting to see in the next segment, where does that first place vote go? At number 2, Jackson State Tigers, they trounced, beat up on UAP Golden Lions. Golden Lions have been playing some pretty steady football, but the Tigers were just too much for them. 41-3 in that matchup as the Tigers improved to 7-2 overall, and more importantly, 5-0 in conference play with just 3 games left. Oh, it should be interesting to see. We have a matchup looming out there with Alabama State as well as the Alcorn State Braves in a rival. Would that mean anything? We shall see. 3 first-place votes in this past weekend. Can they hold on to them? Can they gain more? Because the former number 1 team, or maybe they'll sneak around and hold on to it again. Otherwise, they lost. North Carolina Central, 19th in the poll ranking, NCAA-wise, lost to number 4, South Carolina State Bulldogs, 24-21. They fall to 6-3, 2-1. In last week's ranking, they had 7 first-place votes. Can they hold on to any of them? If they can't, who do they share it with? And what does it all mean? Well, again, we'll share that in the next segment when we talk about it a little more. But let's get everybody's thought on last week's top 7 and how they performed. I'm going to start with you, Dave. What were your thoughts in terms of what took place in the top 7 this past weekend?
A couple things. I think the big thing for me, I watched a lot of that Hampton-Villanova game yesterday. And one thing I'll say, man, I really need Hampton. I need Coach Boykin to take a quarterback, pick one, preferably Michael Mays. I think that if Mays played in that 4th quarter, they would probably have won that game and pull that upset against a top-ranked opponent. They're a really good football team. They just haven't been able to close out games. This is the 2nd time they couldn't get it done within the last possession against a ranked opponent. Rhode Island would be in the first. So that's my opinion on that. Shout out to South Carolina State. It's going to make it interesting. We get into the point where Josh from HBCU Knightley's out here hoping it gets cold for them when they go to those away games up in Howard and such. So it's going to be hilarious to watch them sweat it out for a change. So it'll be fun to watch at a minimum.
For these fans out here, you know, we have them representing the independents like yourself. Obviously, CIAA, SIEC, a lot of fan supporters from the SWAC and the MEAC. For those fans that may not know about Orangeburg and the place that it is to go play, talk a little bit about how tough it is oftentimes to play in Orangeburg and why.
The fan base is rabid. They got one of the strongest fan bases in the MEAC, and I'll stand by that. Even when A&T was still in the conference, they've always had such a rabid fan base, and they have every right to have it. They have a lot of players that make it to the NFL. They have multiple Hall of Famers. They care about their football in Orangeburg. But it's been a house of horrors for the schools in the state of North Carolina, not just A&T. A&T's probably won more games in Orangeburg in the last decade than they did for the previous 70 years. Like, it's a hard place to win at. It just is.
Gotcha.
So it's, so those guys down the road, they've been getting a taste of it now more often now that they're in the MEAC again. So, and they're seeing it much more often now.
Great breakdown. Appreciate that. Let me go to you, Brian. What are your thoughts in terms of what took place in the top 7 and those just outside of it, if you want to add them as well?
I'm sort of piggybacking on what Dave was talking about. I mean, Hampton twice now, 2 home games against nationally ranked opponents, and you so close. Like, just I keep and so I mentioned Hampton being so close, and then I look over at Tennessee State, and I'm like, my goodness, man. Tennessee State down 21-0 in the first quarter. Battle back to get within 6 yards. 6 yards in the fourth quarter of a chance to tie it up, right? I'm on the train coming back, watching this game, and I'm thinking, wow, Tennessee State has a chance to tie this game up, and they couldn't get it done. 6 yards away. That's tough, man. I mean, and that was a great opportunity for Tennessee State. I mean, who knows? If Tennessee State gets that win, where might they be in these rankings that we're going to be dropping later in the next segment? So missed opportunity.
They would have been in the driver's seat to be in the Big South OVC championship game in the final game of the season against Southeast Missouri. They would have been in the driver's seat, and that was another game I was glancing at, and that was a tough one to watch, man.
Yeah,
but they had their chances to win it.
Well said. Well said. Let me go to you, Wilton. What are your thoughts in terms of the top 7? Great comments, Brian.
So when I look at the top 7, I look at that. I'm gonna start at the bottom. When I look at Alabama State beating Alcorn, not surprised there. Alcorn, again, you kind of know what they're gonna do, but I think it just further solidifies that Alabama State's defense is real, very much so, and they continue to show us that. I'm not surprised by what FAMU did. I knew they were gonna do that. I was really hoping Hampton was gonna pull out their win. A lot of the points that he mentioned, I can echo with that. I was kind of glad to see South Carolina State beat North Carolina Central. I'm not gonna even lie. I was glad to see that. I was hoping Tennessee State was gonna come back and pull off the win against UT Martin, because I felt like it would have not only put them in a different place to potentially compete for the title, but more so than anything, what kind of win would they have brought for Eddie George and his tenure at Tennessee State, and what that would have meant for the program. That's how I looked at it too. Jackson State, getting the win against Arkansas Pine Bluff is again what I expected. So yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Good comments, and I agree totally in terms of Tennessee State.
Yeah,
it was really a chance to take the next step and put all eyes squarely on them. But as they've kind of teased at various times over the years, they did it one more time, more than anything. Their fans, I hate that for them. With that, I'm gonna go to you, AD Drew, and save Charles for last with his final comments. But AD Drew, what were your thoughts on the major division top 7 teams? Have a little audio there, AD. We'll come back to you. Let me go to you, Charles, while we see if Drew can straighten out his audio. He's moving to try to take care of some business. But we'll see if we can get him back in before we take our next break. And if not, we'll certainly get him in on the other side with the unveil of the top 7. But before we do that, Charles, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I echo the comments with regards to Tennessee State. I mean, I thought, I was watching the end of that game, and I just figured that they would figure out a way to get in the end zone, but to no avail. But that was just a huge loss in terms of what could have been with regards to Tennessee State. And we all talked about, this is the sort of game that Tennessee State needs to win to kind of keep that momentum going as we get into latter October, going into November, but to no avail. Huge win for South Carolina State. But the thing I thought about yesterday was how much fun the MEAC is going to be over the next month or so. I mean, Morgan State down 23-3 and finding offense out of some I was like, wait a second, where did this offense come from Morgan State? So those are things that were rolling around in my head. And Jackson State, that was a very dominant performance. They are a very workmanlike team, very lunch pail, but it's a lunch pail with a swagger. And Irv Mulligan gives that offense a ridiculous amount of swagger in regards to, you have to meet Jackson State's physicality. That offensive line, they maul people. Another big day for Irv Mulligan yesterday. And Irv Mulligan sort of puts you in the mindset. I don't know if a lot of you guys remember Destry Wright, but when Destry Wright was running back for Jackson State, guy who came downhill with bad intentions, Irv Mulligan sort of puts you in that mindset of that type running back. And that Jackson State's defense, this is, I believe, I saw Israel Carey put that up there, but I believe this is third week in a row they've shut out a team in the second half. So it's a team that's still ascending. And that's one of the things that, just jumped out with me yesterday, that they haven't hit their ceiling yet.
Good stuff. AD Drew, are you back in the mix?
Can you guys hear me now?
You're great.
Yeah.
Bring it.
All right. I'm going to start off with the Tennessee State game. Yes, that was very disappointing from Tennessee State. I wish we would really be sitting here talking about which one of these three teams that we're going to put at number one instead of the two teams that we had, that one of them would clearly be the number one team. I'm going to talk about Alabama State for a moment. Alabama State is a team right now. Eddie Robinson Jr. has figured out a formula. He is not going to beat himself. He's going to run the ball. He's going to play excellent defense, and it's going to allow you to make a mistake and capitalize on that mistake. We talk about close finishes. Tennessee State coming within 6 yards. Alcorn State came within 4 yards of tying that game up yesterday on a Hail Mary. We almost had a Jalen Daniels replay as the ball was tipped. It was caught. Unfortunately, he was 4 yards short of the end zone when Truck Robinson caught the ball that was thrown. And those who did not see the game, Xavier Vaughn went down at the end of the third quarter with an injury that really wound up turning the tide of the game, because the backup quarterback was not really able to move the offense like Vaughn had been moving the offense. Vaughn moved the offense until Alabama State's defense took over. With a couple of other injuries, such as to Tyler Macon, who's out with a groin right now, it was really a game that Alcorn, unfortunately, could not take advantage of and keep themselves in a race, which brings up the fun game next week, Charles. Can Alabama State's defense hold and force Jackson State to make a defense? But we'll talk about that later.
Nice tease. Charles, going back to you quickly in terms of just your thoughts with TC Taylor, extension, Mo Carter as well, but talking a little bit of football here. What are your thoughts in terms of TC Taylor getting that extension?
Yeah, I asked him a question in the post game, and he said, to be honest, it was a weight off of his shoulders in that regards. But when you take a look at what TC has done in a year and a half at Jackson State, you can see where he is building this program. And the contract extension is a reaffirmation, if you will, of what they think TC has done with this program. And we've talked about this, when you have your upper administration in alignment with what athletics is doing, great things can happen. So Jackson State football, I think, is in great hands. When you talk about TC Taylor, he's part of this cadre of young, great head coaches. When you talk about TC Taylor, you talk about South Carolina State's coach, you talk about Trey Oliver. These are really great minds within HBCU football. Appreciate them while they're with us.
Great call on that in terms of getting those young coaches out there. They're getting it done. To your point, the example of opposite that is what Prairie View did last year. You had a coach come into it, make it to the championship game, and they didn't extend him. And now all that pressure, I wonder how much of that has played out on this Prairie View team. Obviously, myriad of different issues that they could have taken care of, but I'm sure that doesn't help anything with coach being on the final year of contract. So smart move. Love the things, as you said, what the administration did, namely Ashley Robinson. I've seen him kind of do these things before, and he knows a good timing and when it's time to make a move and how to take some of that pressure off in his experience. I really value, and this is another example of doing that. Let's take our last break. We'll come back, and it's finally that time. We do the unveil of the top 7. Charles, who'd you have number 1? Don't answer that. Brian,
I'll wait.
Don't answer that. AD Drew, who'd you have number 1 as you voted? Wilton, David? Keep it to yourself. We'll be right back after this break.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft. Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We have Professor Bishop, Professor Rhodes, Professor Drew, Professor Jackson II, and Professor Fulford. Let's get into this top 7. Those that dropped out. It was at least one team that dropped out this week, and that was the Hampton Pirates. They fall out of the poll with a record of 5-4, 2-3. We talked about that tough loss this past weekend in Villanova, as they could not hold on to get it done. Playing some pretty good football, however, but not enough to really make a challenge in the CAA. With that, they do stay in the reach of receiving votes, at the top receiving votes program with Hampton Pirates. They're 5-4, 2-3. At just outside behind them is Alcorn State Braves sitting at 4-5, 3-2, 135 points there. And just sneaking in the top 10 with a lot of teams in the mix. Prairie View Panthers 4-5, 2-3, 123 points. I'll sneak this out there because there's so many teams at 4-5. You also had Morgan State in that mix, really close, right there, 122, right behind Prairie View. Morgan State Bears with a big, comforting overtime victory to reach the 4-5, and they're 1-1 now in the MEAC to keep their hopes alive when it looks like they would be dashed early, and Norfolk State was surprising a lot of folks. Norfolk State ended up the Spartans doing what the Spartans do. Tease you a little bit, but not enough to get everything done. With that, let's get into the important part, the good part. Let's get into these top 7 with number 7. At number 7, Tennessee State Tigers stay in the mix. They're at 6-3, 3-2. They do fall 4 spots to 157 points, but they stay in the top 7 in week number 10. Bringing us to number 6, the Southern Jaguars, after falling out last week, they jumped right back in this week with a big win, come from behind. With under 2 minutes to go, they scored what would be the winning touchdown. They are at 5-4, 4-1 overall in terms of what took place. They're 168 points. Obviously, as I said, they were not ranked, but they're now back in the top 7. At number 5, Alabama State Hornets. Defense. But credit to the offense, find a way to get things done when everybody was ready to bury the Hornets just because of what took place. They were able to get the win this past weekend on Alcorn State, which you saw a lot of the teams in the East, as Charles pointed out the first year, about midway through it, and really said something at the beginning of it in the media day, to look at the East versus the West. A lot of people thought the strength was going to be in the West. It hasn't been the case. The East has dominated the West, has dominated the conference in terms of that. And I'm just talking about the first 2. I'm talking about pretty much all the way down the slate. The East has had a huge number over the West. We'll talk more about that as we start to close the season and kind of say what that means. A.D. Drew kind of teased it out and said maybe there should be even a new format. Will be interesting. Will that take place maybe during the offseason? There's been that talk. Will it come to a pass? Anyway, more importantly, let's look at the top 7, close this out. They move up 2 spots, Alabama State, from last week, as they're 5-3, 4-1, 176 points. Let's get in these top 4 teams. They kind of separate themselves from everybody. They're fighting and jockeying, finding a way to do it. FAMU is at number 4, and I think a lot of that is the fact that they had a game that would have been played against Alabama A&M. They did not get a chance to play it. They have to push it back to the end of the season. So they're just sitting at 5-3, 3-1, and obviously the loss to Jackson State. With that being said, they are in the mix. They sit at 188 points. They move up 2 spots to number 4, as they were right there sitting at 6 to make their potential move. Is that the case? At number 3, North Carolina Central Eagles sit at 6-3, 2-1. They had hold on still to 1 first place vote. They only dropped 2 spots. I'll be interested to see what people's thoughts on that are. Have 190 points, but they're still right there in the mix after a tough road loss. Great game played, but wasn't enough. What everybody wants to know, who's number 1? Well, we got to get to number 2 first. At number 2 is South Carolina State Bulldogs, 6-2, 2-0, huge victory, 21 points. They have 4 first place votes, and they move up 2 spots. Not quite enough to get to number 1, but let me show you how close it is. Number 1, as you know now, is Jackson State Tigers. They're at 7-2, 5-0, 6 first place votes. So 2 first place votes separate these teams. Only 1 point differential, 222 points. They move up the 1 spot to get to number 1 and just hold off South Carolina State Bulldogs for week number 10. Is this a collision course for these 2 teams? Can they hold on? A lot more football to be played, but right now, your celebration bowl would be South Carolina State and Jackson State. We've seen this before, but this time it would be with two different coaches. With that being said, more important, let's stick in the present a little bit. And let's get the thoughts of our guests, these professors. Let's start with Wilton. I'm going to give him the opportunity to speak on it. What are your thoughts in terms of the top 7?
I think Jackson State being number 1 is where things should be. You could have went either way between Jackson State or South Carolina State, but I think Jackson State has solidified that they're the number 1 team currently right now. South Carolina State, obviously, number 2. I'm gonna say this. Both you said it best. It's a lot of football left, but specifically with South Carolina State, they have 3 games left, and in those 3 games for sure, one that I got my eye on is Howard and Morgan State. Probably even Morgan State a little bit more now, considering Morgan State came back and got Norfolk State yesterday. So I'm not saying something. I'm not gonna say they're gonna drop a game, but I do think things are gonna be interesting over these next 3 weeks. I'll say that. With Jackson State, I think like I said, they deserve to be number 1. Jacoby and Morgan is playing strong. Running game is obviously very consistent. Defense, to Charles' point, what he said, it still feels like they're continuously climbing. And if you're still shutting out teams in the second half, I mean, you're doing something right. FAMU still in the mix, obviously hoping for. I know Brian's probably hoping for Jackson State to drop a couple games so they can still get back in the mix, but I don't know if that's going to happen this year, to be honest. Alabama State, I'm gonna say this too. If it's one game, I know Jackson State has to play Valley next week, but I'm gonna go and say it, as Charles like to put it, it's Valley, But that's one game that I'm still a little nervous about when it comes for Jackson State. Them having to play Alabama State at Alabama State.
That's fair.
Great comments, Wilton. Let me get with those doing the comments. Keep them coming. Great comments, great thoughts. I think some of you all are voicing your framework and certainly agree to disagree to something. And I think some of it is really good. But with that being said, state your reason why. State your reason why. One of the things we talk about in the classroom, Charles, you can't just say a comment. You got to put the research behind it. Now, I know you ain't got enough time to do all your research, but you got to at least state your reason why. You got to get a little more and less emotional. Give me some information about why you agree with it or why you disagree with it. With that being said, Dave has a funny smirk on his face. So I'm going to go to Dave and let him get it off his chest.
I think South Carolina State should be number 1. And let me be clear before I continue. I do not have a vote for this poll. Don't y'all come after me. But I think
we're gonna put you in the cross. Now you vote next week. So we gonna take that.
You tapping out already.
Hey,
Come on now.
No. But I think South Carolina State and Jackson State should be flipped, and I also think that FAMU and the school down the road should be flipped as well. I think South Carolina State, with the wins that they had. Now, granted, they did have a close loss to FAMU. Another reason why I think they deserve to be number 3. And I just think that loss that Jackson State had against Grambling, and it wasn't like a close loss, I think that should be a factor in this. I mean, you're talking about South Carolina State that beat the number 1 HBCU team in the country, right? That was nationally ranked as well. So I think that should hold a little bit more strength to put them at the number 1 slot.
I think that's fair, but that happened so long time ago.
It was close. I mean, it was close. Don't get me wrong. It was 1 point, but I'm like, I think South Carolina State should get the nod here. And I will also say this before I close. Yeah. I think South Carolina State and Jackson State is the matchup I want to see in December. The way that those two teams are playing.
I'm not mad at that thought. 80 Drew.
I mean, I know that's not what folks were talking about at the beginning of the year, but I think based on what I've seen so far, that's what I want to see.
Yeah, good one. Drew?
I'm gonna comment on what Dave just said. I talked to John Grant on Thursday night after the South Carolina State game, and
He was there live. Yes. I had to cancel my trip.
I
had it booked. I was ready, Drew. I was gonna go over there and shake his hand with him. Coming out of Chicago, had a hotel, and then they moved my presentation, so I had to cancel everything. I was sick.
Yeah. I asked him, was that game as exciting in person as it was live? Because sometimes, right. TV makes it more exciting than it is in person, and sometimes there's no better place than to be in the stands. And he said, yes, it was. But anyway, going to what Dave said, yeah, I told John Grant that same thing. From a fan's perspective, I think the Jackson State South Carolina State game is the most intriguing and the best matchup for the Celebration Bowl. I said this Thursday night to him. Number two, Dr. Cavil, I am ashamed on this panel missed the obvious storyline this week. The fact that the SWAC East and the SWAC West matched up heads up for this 1 week. And the East went 4-2. The East went 4-2 against the West. So we missed the obvious storyline. But the most important thing I want to know, Dr. Cavil, is you need to change your policy and make sure whoever votes before they go out and start indulging in their adult life on Saturday night. I need to know who the person was who voted North Carolina Central and still gave them a first place vote.
Look, I need to know the panel at this point, man. I need to understand. It does not compute.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
More
importantly, when Central getting that first place vote is who did they put number 2 and who did they put number 3? That's what inquiring minds want to know this, because that's the one thing that made absolutely no sense in this poll. We can talk about FAMU being up, down, whatever, but somebody need to explain that to me.
They listen, outside of Dr. Cavil, man, most of them hide in the shadows. That's what voters do. That's what I've learned with this whole voting thing. They hide in the shadows. They
now they are welcome to talk about their own poll and why they did it, but we won't release it. But that's a great question, and I'm glad that you recognized it. With that, let me go to you, Brian.
There's a great phrase that Carlos Brown started, and we even started selling shirts. All games matter. I will explain tonight why South Carolina State is number 1 in my rankings and why I ranked them number 1. All games matter. That's all I'll say. I'll tease it. Come watch tonight, and I will break it down. I will use data because I know we like to have data points.
Oh, this is a good, great tease. Great tease.
Even though this is a weekly poll show, all games matter. That's all I'll say. Congratulations to the teams who won. If you won your homecoming, congratulations. I'll leave it at that.
I'm with you, Brian.
I saved you for last, Charles. Bring it home.
Well, I will say if all games matter, and if we're doing the historical thing and not the week-to-week thing, Jackson State did beat the defending Black College national champions. So put that there. All right. So let's camp that right there. I think
South Carolina State lost to them.
South Carolina State lost to them. So let's kind of camp that right there. But I think if you're making an argument for South Carolina State, bless your heart. But it's fair, But I think
it's rough, but it's fair.
It's rough, but it's fair. And I'm gonna go back to I'm gonna go back to some a commenter made last week. It was like, why is it so hard to make Jackson State number 1? And that's the part that I'm sort of like that's a great point because they are playing some really good football, but for whatever reason, it becomes a sort of a difficult thing to sort of actually say that they're one of the best. They are the best team in HBCU football, which I think from looking at South Carolina State and looking at Jackson State, I really like that matchup for Jackson State. And like I said, something hit me over the past couple of weeks. Whatever team plays Jackson State, they're going to have to meet that physicality. They are a very, very physical football team. I will say, for all those Jackson State fans that have that championship PSD, listen, Southern, if they stay on that trajectory, they're such a Jekyll and Hyde team. It's worth notice, to just keep an eye on Southern sitting out there. But Jackson State over the next few weeks, they're going to get their best punch from Mississippi Valley State. I don't care what you say. The Mike Washington Hex almost hit Prairie View yesterday because they just play hard. And then everything is kind of setting up for in a couple of weeks when Jackson State heads down to Montgomery. So we'll see what happens then. But right now, I like how this Jackson State football team looks.
Great comments. Way to close it out. YouTube poll on JBN by viewers shared by Brian. Who should be number 1? The viewers are saying 68% Jackson State, University. 28%, South Carolina State University. 3%, North Carolina Central University.
I know who that vote is.
We all know who that vote is.
Exactly. Shout out to Brandon King. He's in the mix. He's still frustrated with what Tennessee State did not show up at home. I wonder if the fans got out there to show up. I asked him for those updates as well. But he said he's not going to be quiet as a mouse, even though his team lost. He's going to talk about them not getting it done. And I understand, Brand. I'll tell you this, though. One of Alpha brothers from Tennessee State was down there at FAMU, and he was getting his homecoming on. Boy, he was having a good time. He plans to be at Prairie View next week. So if he can't get the love for Tennessee State with his HBCU, I guess he's going to go find it himself. He's out of Atlanta, and he's enjoying the HBCU spirit. I'm not mad at it. So, hey, I know A&T just kind of started playing with this, so we're going to give them a little more time. Hampton seems to be trying to figure it out, what they want to do. Tennessee State, you've had a long time in the wilderness. You know, hey, it's up to you, man. You keep having your HBCU culture mixed up, trying to figure it all out, man. You got folks lost out there in the wilderness, man. Just lost. So A&T, you know, maybe 15 years. Make it work in 15 years.
We'll get some chances on the belt. We'll get some chances on the belt. Hopefully, we'll get some this year. This year. We'll see.
Doc, let me say this real quick. What a melting pot my block is. Like, we literally have Tennessee State Tigers, Rattlers, Tuskegee, Jackson State, Morehouse, all on this block. The Tennessee State folks are up in arms because they're under Southern now. The Southern people are like, you know, thank you for having us where you have. But your poll, it goes a long way on Sunday mornings, because I know some of these folks are sitting up in Sunday school right now checking out the show. So I'm just throw it out there.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, that Southern boy, you talk about a team that just sneaks around the chicken coop and find their way. Tennessee State, hey man, it's something about a win versus a loss. It goes a little something, you know. And you can always set up a matchup. Tennessee State out here having a chest because they beat Mississippi Valley, Pine Bluff, and even Howard. You want us to get all excited about that? Somebody talked about Hampton. Hampton beat up on Howard. Yeah, it's not saying much right now. Yeah, they got the Morgan State win. Lost to Morgan State. Explain that one. Come on, people.
Listen, I don't know when Morgan State's decided to have an offense, but so far it's only been in 2 games. So we saw one of them yesterday.
and
we saw the other one against Hampton.
What happens when they have
I can't figure that out.
Right, they win when they decide to show up.
I picked them to win that conference, thinking that all they had to do was have an average offense, and they've had an abysmal offense for all games but 2. Yep. So I don't know what to do with this.
We'll take our last break. We'll flip it around, give you a little update on some big games this weekend, and then we'll tie it in the bow and give you the top 7 of the band of the year. We'll give you that information as that was released. You can go get the whole 15. You can go to Band of the Year, the website, with the Celebration Bowl, give you that information. And HBCU Game Day has as well. But we'll be right back after this last break, tie everything in a bow, let you get to church, finish up church, and then we'll do that in terms of getting in the mix. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero in a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mr. This script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you.
Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true.
Gotta get the corners.
human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield. Never not working.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Before we get into these big matchups, particularly on the mid-major division, where these matchups will go in a lot of ways to see who plays in the respective CIAA and SIAC championship games. So we'll highlight those, and then we'll get into some key matchups on the major division as that floats around. But I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout-out to Day One Crew over there at PV, as they have worked and put together a VIP tailgate experience presented by HBCU Unity, if you would, hosted by Prairie View A&M and FAMU National Alumni Associations. The tailgate is between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. You can go to Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab or my Instagram, as well as X, Twitter, as I like to call it, and YouTube at DRKENYATTA. You can scan the QR code and be a part of this great event in terms of Prairie View A&M University, RV lots 89 to 92. As Charles, you know, it will go down with plenty of spirits and food before the game and post the game, in terms of what that looks like. So yes, the VIP tailgate experience presented by Day One Crew of PVU have brought together the PVAM National Alumni Association. I've seen a little bit of this. I hope to see more of this. I think this is where things are going, VIP. And if you want to have your own VIP experience, I can put you in contact with Day One Crew. They do an extraordinary event of what it looks like in terms of to take your tailgating up a level from a, VIP exclusionary component, if you would like. Again, the game kicks off at 2 p.m. I'll be at that. Then I'll hide in my suite and see what I can see, what takes place, and come back out. I'll have the Deuce with me as well. So as he is getting his HBCU spirits in, he's had multiple homecomings this year, and so he might even come out with his ranking to see where they stand. We'll let you know where that goes before we close out things. But let's get into some of these key matchups in terms of what it looks like. Obviously, you have a top 7 Clark Atlanta. They take on Morehouse. Not sure that's a lot of anything, but I did want to part out Clark Atlanta. We talked about rat poison early in the season, and after that second conference loss, I think it kind of got quiet. But if you really think about the big picture, it's amazing what Coach Keaton has done for the Panthers of Clark Atlanta University, the fact that they're in the hunt for a championship and now certainly a winning season. I think that's a huge statement for them. But we have that big one, Virginia Union Panthers at Virginia State. In terms of that matchup, I'm interested to see what your thoughts are on that in terms of a top 7 matchup, really top 10, but I'd imagine Virginia State after their victory is going to vault in the top 7, particularly when you have that tough loss for Langston. They're likely to probably fall out. We'll see on Tuesday officially what that looks like. But this one goes a long way. And starting with you, AD Drew, as our resident mid-major expert, if you would. We'll let everybody else kind of get their thoughts on this. But I'll start with you. Virginia Union Panthers at Virginia State Trojans. So Virginia has to go on the road at Virginia State. Can Virginia State get a little of that magic and get this game? Can they get it done?
I'll start off with that one. And I'm going to take this game from a different spin. I'm going to take it from the Johnson C. A Virginia State win coupled with the Johnson C.
Man, Drew, you having a hell of a tease right there because you fading out a little bit.
I think I know where he's going. Let me fill in because I jotted this same note down. I don't know if Drew was looking at the notes that I had, but I think where he was going was if Virginia State wins and Johnson C. I think he's saying if they were to lose to Livingstone, you'd end up probably with a rematch of Virginia Union, Virginia State. I think that's maybe where
that is accurate.
Wow.
And you want to talk about more chaos? Here we are.
Do y'all really think Livingston gonna beat John C. Smith?
We don't know what's going to happen next week. We didn't think Fayetteville State would shut out John C. Smith on Saturday either.
That is true. You're absolutely right. Particularly in shutout fashion.
It goes back to the hangover. It depends on which John C. Smith we're going to see next on Saturday.
Exactly.
Expect it. But
so, any other thoughts? Y'all kind of jumped in there, so I think you shared it. But anybody wants to add any additional thoughts on it?
I think AD Drew wants to.
Drew, you back? Try it again, Drew.
Okay, how much of that did you guys get?
None.
None
of the above. All right. Let me see if I can remember that tape. I'm going to talk about this from the Johnson C. Smith perspective. When I talk about this game, a Virginia State win coupled with a Johnson C. Smith loss sets up a rematch in Salem, Virginia for the championship next week. So we talk about chaos. That is chaos. Can State stop the potent running attack of Union? That's going to be the number one question coming into this particular matchup. And after that, State got to play solid defense, stay mistake-free, and not turn the ball over.
So I'm going to go to each of you all in terms of the breakdown as we coming up with our time. I'm just going to ask you this from perspective. Which way are you leaning? Virginia State or Virginia Union, Charles?
I'm going Virginia Union and Jada Byers.
David?
Jada Byers.
Wilton?
Virginia Union.
Brian?
The fighting Jada Byers. Yeah, Virginia Union all the way. By 30. By 30.
Until somebody tells me otherwise.
Right.
80 Drew, I guess you're looking at chaos, so you're leaning Virginia State.
Hey, just so I can come back on here next week and say I told y'all.
There's no shame on the island, my man.
Lead off with this too, 80 Drew. Talk a little bit about this Miles Golden Bears Tuskegee matchup and what needs to take place for the chaos to go on in the SIAC. What does the Golden Tigers need to do to bounce back to find a way to take down the undefeated Golden Bears of Miles? Miles are on the road.
In addition to this being homecoming for Tuskegee, this is a much anticipated day as the lights were officially installed. They have been ran during a test run. We saw the pictures on Instagram and X with the band out there on the field. But there will be a lot more alumni. If you can imagine, even more alumni at a Tuskegee homecoming than normal. A normal homecoming is 30,000. So we're probably talking 35 plus in this particular matchup, just for the intrigue of the lights. Who would have thought Thomas Edison's invention would bring that much attention to Tuskegee, Alabama? But anyway, you talk about the chaos. A Tuskegee win coupled with And Albany State victory opens up a whole bunch of scenarios that we do not have time to go into that could put four additional teams into the championship. Tuskegee can still get in. Clark Atlanta can still get in. Fort Valley is in, could get in. Albany State can still get in. Miles is in. That's the only thing we know right now. Miles is in. Miles is hosting. Unless Fort Valley and Tuskegee beats Miles and Fort Valley wins, I'm not sure who hosts in that instance because both of them would have one loss. Haven't had time to do the math. So there are a bunch of different things that could happen in the SIAC. Must watch iPad next week.
Charles, any thoughts in terms of the chaos, or is it gonna be simple? Miles gonna get it done against Tuskegee? Which way you going?
Man, all that Tuskegee got going on next week, and the Golden Bears gonna come ruin everything with homecoming. It hurts my heart. It hurts my heart. But yeah, I got to go with Miles next week.
Wilton?
Yeah.
Miles, Tuskegee?
I echo what Charles said. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, he's talking about all these lights on the field and all the alums are going to come back and it's going to be a grand old time, but they still going to take a loss on the field.
Not to go to Bears.
Here's my thing. As somebody who lost homecoming this year, it doesn't look good when all the alums see your team catch a fade, but it's looking like it's going to be that way. So I got to go with Miles as well.
Man, Dave made it personal. Tell you, it's not going to be good.
I'm telling you, man, it's a... I'm telling
not
you.
a good look.
Not.
Brian.
Miles. I got Miles in that game. I'm sorry. Nice lights and all the other, yeah. So is that game being played at night? I guess that part is, I didn't know. Are they playing that game at night?
No, they're still playing. That's still gonna be a 1 o'clock kick, local time. They couldn't take that chance.
They had the lights on the night before.
What are y'all doing? Oh, great. Night before. Great. That's going to help
the after party, Brian. The after party.
It's for the after party. Let them party. Win or loss, they going to party.
With some lights on the field Saturday night.
Brian, sticking with you, Fort Valley State or Albany State. Who you got?
I think Fort Valley State. I think it's the best team. I really like them. I want to see Fort Valley State versus Miles in the championship game, so I'm going Fort Valley State.
Good one. Interesting. Charles?
I'm gonna go with the Wildcats. Fort Valley State on that one.
Wilton?
I got Fort Valley State as well.
Dave?
Fort Valley State. Shout out to Sean Gibbs.
Well, we know what AD wants. Chaos, baby, chaos. So
but having seen both these teams up front and in personal, Dr. Cavil, Quentin Gray takes his foot off keeps his foot on the pedal. Albany State can win this game. Fort Valley's defense is not as strong as Albany's defense is, in my opinion.
Great comment. Let's go to the major division. Look at the matchup. Tennessee State Tigers, they're on the road to Western Illinois. Do they bounce back to at least keep themselves somewhat in the mix in terms of the Big South partnership with the OVC? Charles?
This is a bounce back game for Big Blue Nation, so I'll go with the Tennessee State Tigers.
Brian?
Go blue. Tennessee State blue, that is. Tennessee State blue.
Dave?
Just want to clarify.
Tennessee State.
Wilton?
I got Tennessee State as well.
Man. AD?
It's unanimous.
Brandon King gonna be excited with y'all. He gonna be all right over there.
He owes us money.
Let's get into the MEAC and see some of these matchups in week number 11, where it goes down. Should be interesting in terms of some of these key games sitting over here. Let me get into them. We have, if you would, South Carolina State at Howard. One of the games that Wilton said he's going to keep his eyes on this weekend. Wilton, start with you. Is it going to happen or not so fast?
It's going to be a good game, but I'm still giving the edge to South Carolina State.
Charles?
Howard's quarterback play has it shaky for me, so I'll go with South Carolina State.
Dave.
South Carolina State shouldn't have a problem with this, regardless of how cold it's going to be in Howard.
Yeah, 80 Drew. Good point. The weather.
If South Carolina State is going to drop one, this is the one that they will drop. I don't think so, but I do want everybody to be on upset alert.
Brian?
If this game would have been played, if the Central State game had been played on a Saturday, I'd buy into being on the upset alert, the hangover of a big win. But given that it was Thursday and you had the whole weekend to kind of get over, I mean, look, if anybody preaches 1-0 better than Chinnisberry, you show me. I mean, because they have moved on. You can't even get an interview to talk about what happened on Thursday. They're like, what happened on Thursday? We don't know anything about what happened on Halloween. That was last month, last year. We own the Howard. We coming to DC. We're gonna get some binge chili. We're gonna salute Kamala, and then we're gonna beat the Bison. That's what South Carolina State's talking about right now.
Yep.
So
I like that. I had some binge chili last weekend, and I sure like the idea of congratulating Kamala. Great comment.
I've heard it was good. I'm still trying to get there.
Yeah, you got to at least try it out. Charles, the one that hooked me to it, and I didn't follow Charles' lead. First, it was being chilly in Washington, D.C. Then he had me make sure I understood the importance of going to Michael Jordan Steakhouse. So, Charles, blame it on you in terms of my wallet. I followed you. Hey, man. And then
you leave a breadcrumbs.
Yeah, I had some deep dip pizza too from Cheese. Over there.
Wallet and your waistline, Dr. Cavil.
No, I was cutting back. I worked out the whole time so I could have a little more room for the food. So I made sure I spread it out. So I'm actually a pound less. Think about that. That's crazy.
There you go. That's how you do it.
Quickly, A&T Villanova. I don't think anybody's concerned with that. Be a huge
Only thing I'll say.
Get rich. Betting against North Carolina.
All I know is this. I'll say this. For some reason, the Aggies tend to play tougher on the road. I don't think they're gonna win the game, but I think they'll cover. So be careful. That's all I'm gonna say. Just be careful. You out here trying to put your money on that spread. That's all I'm saying. You can say no if you want. If you did that against Richmond, you lost your money too. Just remember that. You did that against Richmond, you lost your money too.
Hampton at Townsend. Hampton bounced back on the road. Townsend is 4-5. Hampton is 5-4.
I think Hampton can. I just need them to start fast. They've had a habit on the road to not start fast, then it turns into a blowout. I'm thinking about the William & Mary game. So I just think they need to start fast against Townsend. Townsend's not that bad of a football team. Some folks had them at the dark horse to sneak into the playoffs. Have just been disappointing. But I think Hampton can get it done.
Anybody else got any thoughts on that?
Give me the Pirates and May.
Drew, go ahead. Thanks, Charles.
I'm saying, can Hampton finish? I've said this for the last 3 weeks. Can Hampton finish?
I purposely didn't have Morgan State or Delaware State. Not anything against Delaware State, but they got a lot of injuries that hurt. I know there's some challenge with the offense, but anybody have a question on that game? No. Morgan State keeps it interesting. I thought so in terms of going down the stretch. Well, I think that'll do it. Let's get into some of these SWAC matchups in week number 11. Alabama A&M at Pine Bluff, Alabama State at Grambling, Bethune-Cookman at Southern. Bethune-Cookman has won a couple of games here. Florida A&M at Prairie View. I think that's the matchup. Mississippi Valley State, Jack State. That's a top 10 matchup now. Florida A&M Prairie View. Texas Southern at Alcorn may be interesting. Mississippi Valley State at Jackson State. Charles, of all those games, which one or two stand out to you to kind of keep your eyes on, or maybe even three? Which one are you looking at this week?
Bethune-Cookman at Southern. Just from the standpoint, Bethune-Cookman, a little momentum. Southern can be Jekyll and Hyde. So
another weekend where all 12 teams play, so 6 matchups, so big time in terms of what that looks like. Dave, anything comes out of your mind in some of those SWAC games that you keep your eyes on?
Jackson State and Alabama State, man. How long will we I don't see Alabama State having a chance in this game, but they're somehow finding ways to stay in these games and pulling these things off. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that one goes.
Good point. They are finding a way to get it done. They just slugging it away. Fascinating. 80
we fast forwarded to the week.
Say what?
I said, did we fast forward a week? Jackson got Valley this upcoming week.
No, I said that.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
My,
Yeah, we can't overlook Valley.
my bad.
I mean,
Yeah,
Jackson
my
State can't
bad.
overlook Valley. Yeah. Not
They
a week.
definitely cannot look over
Go
Valley.
ahead and overlook
They
Valley,
can't look. I
please.
can't
Go
believe we're
ahead.
saying that, but it's very true. They can't overlook Valley
They
because
can't overlook
Please.
Valley.
it's probably a
Overlook
rivalry game to them. I just don't know. I know it's not a rivalry game to y'all.
Trap game. Trap
Right.
game. Valley. Trap game.
80 Drew. Y'all ain't got to worry about Valley. I would do Mike. Valley.
Everybody say Valley until they clip somebody. That's how it
Until
works, man.
Exactly.
They not
clip
gonna clip
somebody.
Jackson. They be looking to keep it close for a quarter. Man, get out of here.
right.
Charles, you getting your old AD on right now. Word. Get out of here. 80 Drew.
Southern 2 games clear of everybody in the SWAC West. Can they handle that? That's the question. Can Southern handle being 2 games clear of everybody, or will Southern lose and come back to the pack and make things interesting going down the stretch?
That is a question. That's one reason to keep your eyes on that Bethune Southern. Bethune-Cookman just had a victory. Southern still has some question on offense, but they have so much defense. It's hard to imagine they're losing
There is
home.
no offense in the West, Dr. Cavil.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, everybody's searching for offense. Literally everybody in the West. As you said, the East came on with this matchup and won 4-2 in terms of what that looks like. And if it wasn't for a missed field goal, it may have been even worse. With that being said, Brian.
It's interesting. This is one of those weekends where, yes, the second weekend where you get all 12 SWAC teams playing each other, and there isn't a, quote, sexy matchup, which means there will be at least 2 upsets. A couple teams will trip over themselves that we all were like, oh, they were supposed to win this. So, and as I'm looking at the schedule, I'm looking at you, Alcorn. I'm looking at you, Alabama A&M. I'm looking at you. Hey, look, I'm gonna say it. FAMU, don't go out there to Texas and get comfortable. So I don't know who it's gonna be. But this is one of those weekends where somebody might trip over themselves. Somebody might trip over themselves.
Man, over here at Prairie View, we're going to enjoy the pregame tailgate festivities. We done learned enough of these teams coming in on our home yard. They just find a way to tailgate us to death, get fat on this Texas meat, and then they walk out of here with a W. I love some Panthers, but it's just not happening.
Win the tailgate. Prairie View going to win
I will
the
say
tailgate.
that you're talking about a coach that needs a big-time victory. This is the one, but I just don't see enough. Obviously, you'd like to think you could run on FAMU's defense, but that's not the strength of Prairie right now. So I'd be surprised to see if they can find enough things. I think they play hard. They keep it close early, and FAMU kind of does what they do and pull away. So stop teasing me, Brian. Let me go to you, Will.
One of the matchups, definitely Bethune-Cookman and Southern. Depending on who Bethune-Cookman, if they continue with Sprague at quarterback, it can make things interesting for Southern. Even though they're playing at Southern, I still feel like Southern will get that win. But the next one is that Texas Southern and Alcorn game. It's at Alcorn, but again, I've seen Alcorn lose some critical games late in the season, and this is November. So that might be one that I'm really looking at that could potentially be an upset alert.
It happened last year to Alcorn.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point. Another good one.
Yeah.
Let me close it out on this in terms of the Division II Band of the Year. The second rankings came out October 2024. We'll look at the top 7. You can see the entire 15. Again, you can go to the Band of the Year, HBCU National Championship. It will be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That is Friday, December 13th, 2024, the day before, if you would, in terms of the matchup. So top 7, I'll go over. You can see them all here. Top 7 is Tuskegee. They previously were 5. Number 6 is Miles. They were 1 and dropped all the way to 6. And number 5, Winston-Salem State. They dropped a spot as they previously were 4. Langston has moved up from 7 to 4. And you have 3, Savannah State. They moved up the biggest jump this weekend as they previously were 12. So they're in the mix. Florida Memorial stands tall and stays placed at number 2. And Virginia State jumps up 2 spots as they were previously 3. Let's look at the Division I. Remember, we call Division II mid-major, but the major division, which is Division I here, when you look at the top 7, Tennessee State is in the mix. They move up 3 spots. Southern at number 6. They drop 4 spots this second time around. At number 5, Norfolk State. They also dropped 2 spots as they were previous 3. At number 4, Bethune-Cookman. They move up a slot from previously being ranked 5. At number 3, you have Jackson State in the mix. They move up a slot, being previously 4. FAMU jumps up 4 slots as they were previously ranked 6. Number 1, North Carolina A&T holding down as they maintain it. And they were previously the national champion last season in 2023. Well, they continue in their mix. They are holding it down at number 1, North Carolina A&T. That'll do it in terms of your rankings there. Again, one more time, I want to give this announcement here before we officially close it out. Day One Crew presents HBCU Unity VIP tailgate experience, where they are hosted by the Prairie View A&M and FAMU National Alumni Association. The tailgate goes from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. The game kickoff is at 2 p.m. You can go to my Instagram and you will see the information where you can do a picture and get your information get your tickets from the QR code. It is going to be in lots, RV lots 89 and 92. Again, that's the VIP tailgate experience hosted by PVAMU FAMU National Alumni, presented to you by Day One Crew. Also, 1876 is Sports and Athletics. Athletic Foundation is an official sponsor of this event with some others. With that being said, thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watch and Charles Bishop. Mike is on the road celebrating his LBs as they are selling their anniversary 35th, getting it done in Las Vegas. Man, he didn't invite you, boy. That's all right. That's all right. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watch and Charles Bishop. Charles invited me. I couldn't make it, Charles. I appreciate it. Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. We'll get you there. As you get into close of things around that time, you should be having those votes come in some areas. Folks will be in the line again. If you hadn't did your early votes, make sure you vote on Tuesday. We want to make sure we put that out there for all involved. See a lot of folks, HBCU homecomings, bands, and a lot of folks doing their things either with their I voted sticker on, people having their shirts on in terms of they voted, fraternities, organizations, institutions. So amazing work from the HBCUs, continue to do great things. That'll wrap it up for us today. With that being said, I am Dr. Cavil. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I call it Twitter because I can. It's DRKENYATTA CAVIL. HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
Brian.
Lecture.
AD, Wilson, and David.
Dismiss.
Great job. Great job.